Hi, and welcome everyone to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. Today we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in beautiful New Orleans. Hello, everyone. So excited to be here today, and we have an exciting topic for you as well. So to reiterate, thank you so much for joining us at Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. And today we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. And of course, we have Oliver barking up a storm in the back because wouldn't be a show without him. But anyway, so today I'm excited because we're going to talk about the ancient lore and forgotten history of the dragon. That's something that I have not talked about on this show yet. So I'm super excited to do that. And for millennia, the dragon has lived in the deepest parts of the human imagination. And who knows, maybe they were real. From the serpentine deities that command the waters of ancient Asia to the fire-breathing tyrants slain by the heroes of European legends. We think we know this beast, but the familiar image of the treasure-hoarding monster is a pale shadow of its true forgotten history. Today, we are going to cross continents and centuries to uncover the primal truths, the sacred roles, and the dark secrets of the dragon, a creature that was not merely just a monster, but often a god. And of course, we welcome Michelle Desrochers to the conversation.
Hello. How are you? It's always so much fun being here with you.
Oh, I love it. I was looking forward to this all day. And I know you're a dragon queen, so couldn't have a better person.
There's a whole thing with that too. So thank you.
Oh, of course. And we're going to be saying hello to people. And of course, we have Wayne, who we always adore and love having here. That is Michelle's other half. Or should I say better half?
I'm the better half. No, no, he really is.
I remember my husband would get so insulted if I didn't call him the better half.
That's true.
I always had to do that.
That's true.
Yeah, just to stroke the ego a little bit.
Nice.
Yes, she is the dragon queen. I know that. I know.
Thank you.
And of course, Heidi. We adore
Audrey.
Heidi.
Big hugs to little Audrey too.
Yes. Hello. If in case I missed somebody, did I miss her? Good
no,
Lord.
she's with Heidi. That's
oh,
Heidi.
that's right.
That's Heidi's little princess.
That. Yes, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. Oh, you have her today. That's wonderful. Well, I guess she has her all the time. That's one thing I miss so much is my son when he moved south.
Yeah.
He took my granddaughter with him. How dare he do that?
The nerve of that.
The nerve.
Now, my little prince is close by now. He's closer, so I'm ecstatic.
Oh, yeah, you must absolutely adore that. I know, it freaks me out. I mean, I get to see her on video once or twice a week, which is great, but they come up once or twice a year, but still, I hate it. I hate it.
More.
I know.
All right.
I had to throw that in there since we're talking about grandchildren. Anyway, so we're going to talk about dragons, and I haven't really talked about this. I'm sure you have many, many times, but I've not. So I was so excited to talk about this topic. And while I was doing research, I was getting blown away by some of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could kind of start us out. Yeah.
There's so much, really. I first started researching this when Joe Montaldo and I were doing the Gray Zone Uncensored. And we thought, you know what, let's just pick a topic which isn't widely done. And yet there are, a lot of papers done on it. There's a lot of research done on it. And then we did this and we did this show and I found so much more. In fact, there's so much more that I found over the course of the last probably couple of months that I literally have to redo so much more. There's so much I have to add,
Oh,
which is
wow.
like which is a whole other show. It's unbelievable,
Yeah.
unbelievable, because people just think, oh, it's just a big dinosaur. It is probably known as one of the world's first cryptids, but I
Mhm,
think literature wise, I mean, the legends of dragons goes on. It exists in many cultures around the world.
mhm.
And I think it traces back, meaning documented in one form or another, as far back as 5000 BC.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's quite a ways back, but the appearance and the traits, I mean, all that varies depending on the culture, of course. You look at Chinese dragons, they're much different than, let's say, the medieval dragons, and there's just so much as to, you
Yeah.
know, whether they are revered, whether they are hunted down, but a lot of people look at them as, oh, these big evil things. They were the keepers of all knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And yet they were hunted down for being murderous beasts to terrorize the masses. I mean, they had to eat.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
do they really burn villages to ashes? I guess that remains to be seen. Are they fire breathing? That, I mean,
Right.
you know, unless you were there.
I mean,
So,
everybody watched Game of Thrones, and that made dragons really come into popular culture even more so than ever. And we empathized with the dragon because they were like the good guys in Game of Thrones.
yes.
And, the princess rode them and talked to them and they understood and they were like these beautiful protective creatures that like were
Mm,
there at her command.
mhm.
So, that I think that really regenerated a lot of the interest in the dragon too. TV always does that in movies.
It does, and again, it's one of those things we can deem a tale as old as time with the princess and the dragon. It just
Yeah.
seems to be, a very, commonplace for film. The maidens and the knights would
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
go off on horseback, fight the dragon, get the maiden back. I mean,
Yep.
there's just so much, you know?
Yeah, there is. I mean, I love what Kathy just said. We all have dragon spirit as
Mhm.
dragons as spirit guides, and I never thought about that. That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think most people do love them and agree. Patsy says she loves dragons, they're not evil. And it was so interesting because I always thought, even, like, decades ago, how could all these cultures talk about the same beast when there was no travel between continents? And yeah, they varied a little in the way that they were depicted, whether it was through pictographs in caves or whatever. But how could they still talk about this same beast that kind of looked exactly the same?
It's like one of those situations. Like, why do we see pyramids all over the world? Why
Right,
why are we
exactly.
seeing Egyptian, you know, um, structures, for example? I mean, you could go to Sedona and
Yeah,
see there's a whole Egyptian tour done by Deborah Thunderbeat there, and this is Sedona in the United States.
crazy.
Why is there so many similarities with
Yeah.
everything? And I'll tell you, there are pictures of dragons flying,
Mm.
out in the West Coast, the Southwest in the United States. I mean, I took screenshots of a video that I found on a television show that I watched, and I can't even find it on YouTube. And you just see this thing, and it's it's a freaking dragon.
Yeah.
Just, so are they dimensional? Very possibly. So I think a good place to start is just looking at the theory. So the theory of the dragon is considered to be, again, cryptid, but a lot of people deem it to be along the lines maybe of a myth, a piece of folklore, or a legend, right? The ancient tales of dragons are derived from roots such as crocodiles,
Yeah.
alligators, just to mention a couple. Some archaeologists believe that the ancient people may have envisioned dragons due to finding old dinosaur bones, which could have made it very easy to envision such, a creature.
Mhm.
And then there are those who think that maybe they derived as part of the draconian reptilian races of
Yeah.
extraterrestrials, But cultures around the world have depictions of serpents and reptilian races through their histories on temples, caves, relics have been found. So, how far back do we go? The ancient Sumerians. The
Yeah.
Sumerian word for dragon is Oshun, and the stories date back again for them in Sumer to 5000 BC, which refers to the dragons Zu and Enlil. So again, are we getting into Anunnaki stuff here?
Ah.
Right. So we go way back, and the story states that Zu and Ker stole the tablets of law from Enlil, who was I know Anunnaki, which angered the gods, and the sun god Ninurta was sent after both dragons and slayed them. So there's a
Mm.
tale, there's a story about this.
Yeah.
So then if we get into Chinese mythology, the dragon was considered to be very sacred in China, and tales are said to go back also as far as 5000 BC. And it was highly significant. It became a symbol of the emperor, and his throne was actually called at times the dragon throne. Like, let's look at the dragon emperor. If you remember the movie The Mummy, the dragon emperor, right? The one with the terracotta soldiers,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? One of the last, big emperors, and they called him the Dragon Emperor. So the ancient Chinese believed that dragons were in control of the weather, the water. They were able to manipulate the oceans and the storms, floods, tornadoes. I mean, they believed everything, you know, revolved around the dragon. But their dragon looked more like a serpent with a big dragon head.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know? So, I mean, you can get into a whole lot with that, but there's a belief that there are underwater dwellings where the
Mm-hmm.
dragon kings actually live in crystal palaces in China. And it would be considered the underworld, which could be reached via underwater cave systems that led to secret entrances. And when the water dragon rose to the surface, they could cause typhoons, all kinds of weather related, ocean weather related,
Yeah.
heavy rain, things like that. But they were considered deities of the
Mm.
Taoist religion,
I
right?
don't know.
And
That kind of ties into what Wayne just said. No,
yeah,
he said, "I
yeah.
believe that dragons exist, but I'm also of the mind that primitive people looking up and seeing a spacecraft zipping across the sky, spewing smoke
Mhm,
and fire, they would have no point of reference." I mean, that's
mhm.
true, right? Especially the ocean connection, right,
Absolutely.
Michelle?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about it, the ancient people or our indigenous people from all over the world would have certain creatures that would be considered very, very sacred, much like they would certain places. But how much has been misidentified, misinterpreted, conditioned, because the Chinese still revere the dragon.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and they have several different types of dragons. Example, the spiritual dragon, which controls the wind and the rain. Then they have the winged dragon, which looks after rains and floods, right? Celestial dragons, which keeps the gods from falling from the sky to the earth. The
Wow.
coiling dragon, responsible for controlling time. Treasure dragons, those are the ones you see even in Lord of the Rings, right? They love their treasures and their baubles, but it protects hidden treasures. And I would say knowledge is a hidden treasure as
Yeah,
well,
yeah. Yeah,
right? The
absolutely.
underworld dragon, which controls the flow of rivers, seas, streams. The horned dragon, considered evil, like the black dragon, and the dragon king, which controls the seas of China in all the four dragons. So that's just one culture, and look
Yeah,
at
yeah,
how
yeah.
in depth it goes,
Mhm. Yeah, it's
right?
crazy. I found a video. I mean, I'd like to show it to
Yeah.
you because
Mhm.
I was, like, kinda blown away by it, but let me show it to you here. Alright, and the
Never know.
stage.
Yeah.
Now, supposedly, this is video of real dragons. It didn't look AI-ish to me, but
Mhm.
you guys decide.
People see them all the time.
I mean, that one might be AI there.
That yeah.
Yeah, that one's AI. Trying to get the feel for a fire-breathing dragon there.
Yeah.
That's the one without wings you were talking about, right?
Mhm. That's the Chinese one there.
Yeah. I mean, fake or real, it kind of gives you a good vibe for
Yeah.
what they would have looked like. Or the first one blew me away. And this one here, I don't know. That one looks kind of legit.
I'm trying to find the pictures. See, this
Five
could be
dragons caught on camera in real life. You won't
okay.
believe the
So
last.
that's kind of crazy, right?
So the ones here that I have, okay, I'll show you just the pictures. I just sent these to myself, if I may. Share screen. I got so many things up on my screen, so I apologize. Okay, so here we go. These are screenshots of a video.
Mm,
Somebody took at least a
wow.
minute long video and followed this thing going up between the mountains. And this is in the Southwest in the United States. So I tried to take as many as I can.
Mm.
But I mean, you look at the wings,
Yeah, that thing looks real.
it does. And let me just grab another one here. Hold on, take this one out. Okay, I'll grab another one. I might even have a little clip, a little video clip that
Mm.
I took. I'm not really sure. See here's another one of the from the film that I saw. So this one here I find, somewhat compelling. But okay. No, it's not the one I want. This is the one I want, I believe. Nope. This is it. Oh my God. See, I got too many up. That looks like a dragon. That's
It
just any way you look at it.
does.
Like,
Wow.
no, that one's sort of off in the distance there. But I mean, yeah, that one's a bit blurry. But this one is it's super compelling.
Yeah, that is. Wow.
We've had sightings. I've had people refer back, to me with stories and such. And they've been seen in the Adirondacks. They've been seen in different mountain ranges. This one in the Southwest looks like it could be coming up along between California, even into Arizona. Like, you look at the west, Southwest, because you could tell by the terrain. And
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
flying behind these mountains and it just keeps going. And that's where I was able to get all the clips as it was traversing. And it was on television. So I'm thinking, I went on and tried to find it. I couldn't. But people basically say that, they have had sightings.
Mm.
There are sightings of these things. So portals, that's what comes to mind.
Yeah,
Like many
portals.
cryptids.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Cryptid.
Mhm.
I mean, Patsy just said perhaps Mothman is a real dragon. She said
Different type of wings.
it is different wings from what's
Yeah.
depicted.
Yeah. But, there are so many different possibilities. But let's just keep going back in time a little bit. Let's go to the
Yeah.
Egyptian dragons. Who would have thought? Really, everything that's out there, dragons certainly isn't something that they speak widely about. But in the Egyptian mythology, dragons date back between 3 and 2000 BC. Apep was the deity of the Nile. He was a sea serpent viewed as a lord of chaos. So it has a little bit of a Japanese feel, like the serpent.
Mhm.
But they believe that he held a grudge against the sun god Ra and attempted to swallow him up every single night as he made his journey through the underworld, as the god Ra, just
Mhm.
as did, right? So there's a whole thing around that. But every night he would coil around his boat that Ra traveled on, and winged serpents were also known as the guardians to the dead, and depictions of them can be seen on different tombs. So this goes back again, way back, and there are several other dragons of Egyptian lore. So then we get into Babylonian lore, and that goes back to 2000 BC with the most famous tale that has a dragon depiction of that of Gilgamesh, the tale of Gilgamesh. has a dragon in it. So Humbaba was a dragon mix. He had the body of a lion, but was covered in horned scales. His feet and claws were like a vulture. His tail ended with the head of a snake, and he walked upright. He had the horns of a bull on his head. So now we're getting into almost what looks a little bit like, would that be considered dragon, or is that just a different type of cryptid?
Mm.
And there's different types of dragons, like wyverns, right? And then
I've
there's
never
like,
heard of that.
and then well, yeah, wyvern is another type of dragon. And then they have like sea wyverns almost. So, and you see, I have actually a lot of furniture that has those like wyverns, but they have the coiled tail, but yet they have the
Oh,
big wyvern head. It's incredible. You could see as, they incorporated the designs into, really old furniture. Right. So, and of course, I would find things like that. So,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
but
I
then
don't know. I heard that there's no fossils of them because the bones were very fragile and
Mhm.
they weren't able to fossilize.
Mm,
I mean,
possible.
and that's why we don't have any actual bones. But then again, they say that dinosaur bones, all the ones we see in museums are just plaster. They're not really done. I don't know.
So again,
There's so much about
similarities.
that.
I know.
Yeah,
I know you catch them. The fossilized stuff, it's so hard. There's so much about our
yeah,
history that we will never know.
exactly.
We will never know. But let's start coming in slowly into, after 2,000 years, Druids and Celts. So the
Mm.
dragon symbolism is heavy in the legends of the Celts, and it's associated with all four elements. So to the Druids, dragons represent vitality, ancient wisdom, the psychic self, and the power of creation. Story of dragons protecting secrets or sacred entrances to other realms. Again, common in this folklore. So do they protect these entrances because do they come from these entrances
Mhm.
perhaps? Right? So throughout the Celtic realms, ley lines are actually called dragon lines.
Oh,
Stonehenge is believed to have been the ancient resting ground for traveling dragons. The Anglo-Saxon word for dragon is clear seer, which implies that the Celts considered dragons to be true seers and prophets with great wisdom. And seeing a dragon was regarded as a good omen, good health, and good harvest. And even today, the dragon is respected and seen as a protector of Mother Earth. So there's another one. Just going through some of these, ancient
yeah,
myths
yeah.
or oral history. Now, the Vikings, not far off from the Celts, uh, Vikings believed that having a dragon head on the prow of their ship would make their enemies run for their lives and could even potentially scare off sea monsters.
Mm.
The dragon is said to fight with the god Thor. And to the Vikings, dragons and serpents were symbolic of power and protection. And many Norse sagas make mention that dragons were creatures of diabolical designs. Okay, right? So, but you looked at one and it would instill fear. But
Yeah,
again, and they have their own, they have their own, uh, you know, dragons and with different names and what they all represented. There's a really large amount of them. So, again, did the dragon basically represent something dark when it needed to for some cultures and
yeah,
more spiritual when it needed to? Different dragons had different roles. Absolutely. So the Aztecs and the Mayans. So getting a little closer, the lore dates back to roughly 250 AD, and many temples throughout the cultures were adorned with serpents and reptilian type creatures. And of course, now we also know that there was a lot of contact even with reptilians back then,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
that
Definitely connection.
much like the Hopi with the ant people,
Mhm.
in some of the communities in South America, like Peru is a good example, when they faced cataclysm, they had a reptilian, and there's a statue in this town, and they call him like he's a reptilian god. And he came in, he brought them all underground, and the reptilian took care of them, educated them, fed them, and when it was safe to go back up top, so to speak, even if it was generations later, then they went back and they were always revered because the ancients emulated what they saw, what they were in awe of, what they respected, what they feared. If they saw it, they drew it, they usually, experienced it, right? So now we can still see a lot of representations of dragons in British and Welsh mythology,
Mm-hmm.
right? The Pendragons of Wales, for
Mm-hmm.
example, Arthur Pendragon, right? So they were often depicted as wingless creatures, often being very malevolent, difficult to kill. It lived in dark spaces or wells and was said to often be guarding treasure hoards. So, that's where a lot of that comes from when
Yeah.
we see these in films. But they were difficult to approach due to their poisonous fire breath. So, the Pendragons of Wales, meaning drag leader Penhead, this is what it means, was a noble surname in Britain as early as the 5th century. And the red
Mhm.
dragon was used on the Welsh flag. And the motto was, "The red dragon leads us."
Oh,
So
wow.
Uther Pendragon, in Welsh literature, the father of King Arthur, was said to have had a vision of a red dragon, and he was known as the dragon chief. In all reality, Henry VII flew a red dragon on his battle flag, and the red dragon was the first brought to Great Britain during the Roman era. So the history states that it was the Romans that either learned it from the Persians and brought it to
Mm,
Wales,
mhm.
right? So there's all kinds of this. The Welsh history basically mentions dragons as early as 830 AD, and you start seeing that surface a lot more at that point. And that's where the wyvern is mentioned. It's a legend in British medieval lore and is often depicted as having 2 legs and 2 wings. So not 4 legs, right? So and the
Yeah.
long curly tail.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's lots there
So
too.
interesting. Yeah. So it's so deep in history. One
Mhm,
thing blew me away is when I was doing the research, Marco Polo actually wrote in his book, The Travels of Marco Polo, about a serpent, a creature that was
mhm,
local to inhabitants in China that you just talked about.
mhm,
And he went on to detail the size, the length, the limbs and the claws, the head and the jaw. It had large, sharp teeth. He described the eyes that he said were larger than a loaf and very glaring.
mm,
And he even went on to describe the behavior. And he said exactly what you were talking about, that they lurked in caverns during the day to escape the heat and would issue they would go at night when they had to hunt and devour large beasts like tigers and wolves. I mean, I was blown away by that
mhm.
he actually documented this in a book that he wrote. I had no clue.
They're out there, and
Yeah.
I think
So
when you go back in time, there's no air traffic, at least not much,
right,
if you're dealing
right,
with other ethereals or
right.
extraterrestrials or things of that nature, but and there was less of a population. Now, the skies are full at any given time, and
Exactly.
you have a huge population of people, but people are seeing them,
I
and
think they are too. I do.
yeah, they're spotting them, and remote viewers see them all the time. People who are
Mhm.
meditating, I meditate, and I definitely have a dragon that I can connect with,
Mm.
but if you just ask for them, do they come in ethereal form. If they're coming, if it's a dimensional thing, you most certainly would be able to catch a vision of one without any problems.
Yeah.
I think once you establish that connection, it'll continue. I mean, I've had forever, and it's funny because one of my sons and I talked about this. Um, he had also a strong connection to dragons. I had a ridiculous connection to dragons my entire life, still do. So I think there are just people who connect to certain,
Yeah, absolutely.
certain animals or certain, you know, um, your totems, whatever your
Yeah.
totem may be. So there's
Almost like a
something to it.
familiar. They could be
Yes.
like a familiar, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. So interesting story. Well, here's a dragon tale from Italy, pre 1500 for you guys. So a particular artifact was found in a church in the Italian city of Atessa. Allegedly, the church was in possession of a rib that once belonged to a dragon that once terrorized the city. So back in time, there were rumored to be two villages called Ate and Tixa. Each of them stood on a hill, and between the two was a dragon's lair. So the dragon would spew flames all over the land, apparently, and the villagers had devised a plan to rid themselves of this menacing creature, as they called it. So they enlisted a man named Lucio, Saint Lucio, aka the Bishop of Brindisi, who was said to have single handedly captured and slayed the dragon with the sheer power of his faith.
Mm.
So the bishop then went on to use the black blood, which contained magical properties, by pouring it over the land in the valley, and the marsh turned to rich soil. He gave the villagers the dragon's rib to put on display as a tourist attraction, and the church was then constructed over the dragon's lair. So another dragon tale goes back to May 13th, 1572, when a dragon crash landed in a field in Bologna, Italy, and was kept on display at a museum for centuries after that.
Wow.
Can you imagine? It's just like, what? Again,
stuff.
the ancient world, but those are just the two stories where
Why,
there were
why, do, why do you think they hid them from us or are hiding them from us? I mean, they tell us there are dinosaurs, so why hide
just,
the dragon?
well, do they? Look at the story of St. George,
Mm,
right? He basically, again, born in Turkey, his parents were Christians, became a soldier of the Roman army.
mm.
And, you know, the emperor at that point in Rome tried to get George to convert into wealth and power. And he was tortured for like 7 years and beheaded.
Oh,
But the
jeez.
dragon story, I mean, there's a story. But remember that George was beheaded in 303 AD. The dragon story of St. George came 900 years after his death. So not really relevant, but there are
Mm,
stories, I think, that get put out there. So they're essentially, because remember, as we've talked about in other shows, things have to kind of go in plain sight. So
yeah.
they're, you see them in films, you see them. I think it's a matter of really looking at the film. I mean, really looking at the film, because
Yeah.
so much is
Yeah.
hidden within the films
Oh my
and
goodness. Yeah.
and the fables. Always go back to the folklore, the ancient history. And there's some that goes back even further. you know? So, do you want to hear some superstitions?
Oh yeah. Love them.
These are fun. Superstitions and symbolism of dragons. So, dragon teeth were thought to be good luck to the individual who possessed them. First off, how would you come across a dragon tooth? This must have been they must have been pretty commonplace at that
Mm-hmm.
point, right?
Yeah.
But the blood of the dragon would give someone the ability to see into the future. If a knight, for example, dipped his sword in dragon's blood and stabbed his opponent, he said the wound would never heal. Dragons from the Eastern world were said to be able to shapeshift. Well, I would explain a lot. I think reptilians
Oh.
shapeshift too.
Mhm.
Right? Dragon is believed to bring rain to farmers. They are seen as a symbol of power. They are said to be the soul bearer of the dead and takes them to the heavens. Black dragon is a symbol of rage. Europeans believe that dragons should be skilled as they were evil, or should be killed because they were evil. And that's
Ah.
why you had so many dragon slayers. Whereas the Chinese revered them and saw them as benign and should be
Mm.
worshipped. Right? So, what about a dragon as a totem or a spirit guide? Right? You have different dragons, the most powerful of all totem animals. He's the most ancient.
Mhm.
most imposing, carries a reminder of courage, strength, fortitude. They are messengers and balancing magic. They represent change, transformation, wisdom, inspiration, longevity, protection, insight, divine illumination, personal happiness, you name it. There's your dragon. They are the masters of all elements: fire, water, air, earth, very powerful allies. So if you look at what fire represents, for example, transformation and vitality, if this is the type of dragon that you're dreaming about, then you would probably be attributing the dreams to some of these things that, the elements represent. But when
Yeah.
a dragon enters your dream, it's usually a reminder of your strong will and personality. If he's breathing fire, it suggests that you're using anger to get your own way, which represents emotional patterns. But if the dragon has a treasure for you, it's a representation of you being the treasure. So you have to overcome the struggles and fears of your life to reach your true self. And it also
I like that.
represents all you hold dear. So when you're looking at things like that,
Yeah.
you tend to ask yourself, like, wow, what did the ancients know? How did they come to know all of this stuff?
Exactly. Exactly. I remember when I was in college, we had to read Beowulf,
Mhm.
which was it was one of the
That's
oldest
It's
Anglo-Saxon
great.
poems.
Yeah.
Huh?
That was
Yeah.
great. I loved it.
Yeah, and in
Yeah.
the end, he fights a dragon, and he
Yes.
decides to fight and kill this monster himself.
Yes.
So, and I was so amazed at that how long ago was Beowulf written? I
That's a
mean,
really old one,
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
You
I don't know
know?
the exact date, but I remember reading the
Yeah.
book and, kinda hard
Yeah.
to get through because it was in Old English,
It
but,
was. I remember it. I like the movie.
yeah, the movie, right? Thank
This
God for the movies.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I think, like, towards the end of the book, he had this fight with this dragon.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. And think of all the movies that are made about dragons. Like, in the chat, what's your favorite dragon movie? I mean, there's so many. Beowulf's definitely one, but it wasn't just about dragon. But look at Dungeons and Dragons, the game.
Oh my god. Yeah.
How popular is that?
Yeah.
Like, I remember when my kids were small, little, they were playing
Mine
Dungeons and Dragons.
too. They
Yeah,
loved it. There's
yeah.
just, what is it about the allure
How to
of
Train a
of
Dragon. Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's a big one now. Kids love it. You know, I think you have to get into, you know, what is the allure of the dragon? What is
Exactly.
it about these majestic beings that draw us to them? Some
Can you
say,
think of any other, beings that are like the dragon that are mythical? No, right? I mean, what
well, there's the griffin. A lot of people like the
Yeah,
griffins, and things are starting to surface there. The phoenix,
yes, the phoenix. Well, that's a dragon though, isn't it?
it's a bird.
Kind of, sorta? Oh, it's a
Yeah,
bird,
it's a
that's right.
bird of fire, yeah,
Kinda
and
like a
they've been
hybrid.
spotted around too, though. Like,
Yeah,
these
yeah.
are animals or beings that are being spotted, and sadly, I mean, I won't say it's I mean, sadly, AI has its place, I mean, love it, don't love it,
Yeah, yeah.
it's got its pros and cons, and one of the cons is that you don't really know what you are looking at. You really have to verse yourself, and it's gonna get so good with AI that you're really gonna have to take a course just to be able to tell if some of it is accurate or not. Right now, it's early stages, so some of it's pretty easy, but, um, I tend to look back at really old videos if I'm gonna look for something, and try to trace back how far it goes,
Yeah.
because there are, um, there are clips out there of griffins. There are clips out there and eyewitnesses of phoenixes. It's
That
insane. It's insane. So are
yeah.
we dealing with something that comes from inner earth? Are
Mhm.
they all hiding? Are they in mountains? Are they under the water?
Right.
Is it a dimensional thing? I mean,
Mm,
there's so much there. You just don't know where they're actually coming from, But these beings are coming from somewhere. Inner Earth, so many people are now starting to look at the hollow Earth, inner Earth thing
Yeah.
because so much comes from underneath.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the dragon as being a symbol of life and rain, how do you
Mm.
think that the act of like the Western hero in these movies that we're watching, slaying this has a deeper cultural meaning, like maybe the desire to subdue and control nature or the
Mhm,
forces of nature? Like, do you
mhm.
think a lot of it is used symbolically like that?
Why not?
Yeah.
You know, why not? I think that it always has been on
Mm.
on different levels, but I think we need to look at how far back some of this actually goes. And
Yeah.
when you start dissecting it all, you can look at things. I mean, we tend to nickname everything. Like I said, when you're looking, for example, ley lines being called dragon lines, for
Yeah, I
example,
know that, yeah.
or dragon veins refer to the passive
Mm.
energy flowing through the earth. So that really shows that connection to dragons, as guarding these lines, right?
Right.
And so because they're energy lines. In the paranormal, some people call them the highway of the dead. And some dragons are guardians of the dead, getting them on their paths as well. And this is a really big thing in feng shui, right? So their dragons are believed to be guardians above all else of Earth's energy, and they maintain that balance and that harmony. So this is also a really big thing. So you're looking at guardians, you're looking at um, the keepers of knowledge, of
Yes, that's a big
balance, So are we looking into more of that, or are we just not looking deep enough?
I
Right?
like both of those. I like both of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they say that there are 13 dragons that guard the
Oh,
Earth's lines. It's a widely established concept.
you mean ley
So,
lines?
mhm, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. And they're woven deep in these dragon beings. There are 13 dragon beings. Here's the thing with it,
yeah.
that are woven deep into the Earth's crust, guardians of the planetary ley lines, resting in stillness for eons. So their presence holds a sacred role in collecting or in the collective awakening. They are not mere myth, they are vast
Mm.
consciousness, the reservoirs of golden fire and living light who stir when the time is right. So it's believed that the cosmic dragon prepares to birth the golden dragon egg, cracking open new timelines, higher consciousness, divine remembrance. Like
Mm.
there's a lot of that, and it goes back even further. And we can go back to like the mother of the dragons, who's the divine cosmic mother in her Christos, Sophia, dragon form. And that's a whole other thing.
That
Oh my
really
God. The rabbit hole just goes
it
so,
does.
so, so. Yeah.
And if you look at the connection between what we're going through now globally, we're
Yeah.
having this cosmic awakening
Mhm.
and what you just talked about with these 13 dragons, it makes so much sense, using that as like a spiritual
Mhm.
analogy. And Wayne says 13 dragons and Jesus and the 12 disciples also add up to 13. No coincidences, just saying, gosh, that's true.
See? So if you start looking at the symbolism behind some of it and start looking
Yeah.
at locations, because there are people who just watch these things and they
Mm,
meditate on them, they're very connected. But when you're getting into the fact that they all somehow are intertwined with the cosmic Christ,
mhm.
the sun, everything flows through them, right?
Yeah.
And when you start really dissecting all of that, you start looking for a phase of the dragon awakening, so to speak. And a lot of them are connected to the St. Michael line, which weaves through the key sites like at St. Michael's Mount in Cornwall and the Mont Saint Michel in France.
Mm,
That big castle or church, and that when the water recedes, you can drive up to it, but when the water comes in, you can't get to it. You have to time it just right. So this is a really big deal, like, you know.
Yeah.
But the dragon lines initiate new energetic geometries as well, right? So you again, you just have to see that there's so much. Like
There
it's
is.
a whole other show. It really is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but apparently right now people are witnessing activations in
Mhm.
different power points on the Earth's grid, being the Ave Henge in England,
Mhm.
Glastonbury, England, Lincoln Cathedral, England, Mont Saint Michel in France, Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. That's a big one. Grand Canyon, Arizona, the Serpent Mound of Ohio, Uluru, Australia. Like you start getting into some of this stuff, and it starts to make some sense,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know. So I don't know, but I think that people are witnessing something happening, and
Mm.
I think it's not just so much the dragon as a physical. We have to look at dragons as ethereal,
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
right? Because they're returning. It's not like they're just coming, coming into being. They're returning.
Yeah. Like I said, it feels very timely too to talk about this. I had on my show not long ago, Mike Wilkerson. We
Mhm,
talked about colossal fossils.
mhm,
And one of the things, and if I could just add this, is this is supposed to be a fossilized dragon. And there's
mm.
so many examples of
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
that they've
Yeah.
just froze in place. It could have been some type of weather disaster that caused it, a volcanic eruption. It could have been anything,
Mhm,
and it caused these creatures to fossilize, and
mhm.
just die. And I mean, that thing kind of looks like a dragon to me.
It does. I
No,
mean,
no,
the naysayers say, "Well, it's pareidolia," you know? Um,
yeah,
there are so many um, petrified pieces of history out there. You look at
yeah,
these giant mountains that are flat top, and then when you look above, you can see ring
exactly.
structures, giant trees.
Yeah,
You see animals. There's one I saw, it was a serpent, a giant
yeah,
serpent that is made of stone. It's completely petrified. When you look at that thing all coiled around,
yeah.
and you go,
I've
"Oh,
seen that.
this is a natural structure." To hell it is. It's got a full head on it, eyes, everything, and it is part of the natural environment. But if that's where it died and petrified,
Yeah,
then yes, it's now part of the natural
yeah,
environment. So
yeah. I
why
mean,
not?
some of
Why
them.
not with dragons? Why not?
Exactly, exactly. I mean, it can't be all pareidolia,
Mhm.
if there's so much of it, which there is,
Mhm.
it just can't be all of our imagination that,
Mhm.
we need to make a face or y connect it to something so our
Mhm.
brain has peace, when we look at it, but I don't know.
But yeah. You wanna get that
May
or no? Yeah.
Yeah. No, Wayne said we're in the midst of a great awakening, that's what we were saying.
Mhm.
It's this awakening that is bringing about more and more unusual sightings, and yeah, I totally agree with that,
Mhm.
and that's why I think this whole dragon thing is really reemerging, no pun intended, but it really is, and I think people are just starting to feel more connected to these things.
Well, I think if we are having an awakening of sorts, if we are, awakening usually means awareness and acceptance
Right.
of things that make you feel good. They're like shifts that
Yeah.
happen. And when you start feeling these shifts and you start getting pulled into certain directions
Mhm.
and you start to resonate with that somehow, you're like, "You know what? This makes sense to me." There are things that I have read, especially when it's new, and I'll go, "I don't know what it is about this," 'cause I try to deep dive as much as I can,
Yeah.
but it's a matter of, like, this feels right to me, and some of it is so, I won't say it's so out there. It's probably out there because it's information not everyone is made privy to. Like, why
Mm,
is it that some cultures can be can look at this being as being something completely sacred and write incredible things like what I read to you earlier about the 13
Yeah.
dragons. Like people are actually meditating on this, or they are
Yeah.
viewing it, they're deep diving into old texts. I probably have about 30 articles that have been written by researchers and scholars and so on. And
Yeah.
some of them are archaeologists, some of them are professors who write papers, and these are just on dragons
Jesus.
and the different representation. So this isn't just a fly by night, hey, I love dragons. There's people, academic people, who put a lot of research and
Yeah. Into
time,
it. Yeah.
so it's that's all out there.
Yeah. I find it very interesting that the dragon's greed is a human intervention. And the idea of the dragon hoarding treasure,
Mhm.
on mountains of gold has
Yeah.
been created in the creature's long history. So it wasn't something that like initiated with the dragon. I wonder why
Mm.
we did that. Like, does that say anything to you about the spirit, like man's nature? Maybe.
Yes. I am it does, because there is a lot of that, and I do believe that, if dragons are I truly think at one time, I mean, were they all real in the sense of physical? Is that why we don't find bones? Or is it something
Yeah.
that has been able to transcend through dimensions or time, um, and just shows up every now and then?
Mhm.
Ethereal. And
Yeah.
if we're looking at that, you know, it stands to reason that it would, I guess, resonate with some of the things and the characteristics and energy that is happening here. And we have a whole lot of amazing people out there. And then we have select few who are just beyond the wants more than the needs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the dragon became a scapegoat for human greed and the
Mhm.
corruption of power and wealth. That's just the way it seems like it just became a scapegoat for some reason. I just
Absolutely.
yeah, and it's like I have to go back to Game of Thrones because those dragons were so beloved that people were having a hissy fit all over the internet when one of them got killed.
I
They
know.
went ballistic.
Yeah, I
They
know.
weren't having it. There was no way that dragon was
Bring
gonna
it
die.
back. Bring it back. I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dragon does
It
not
was
get it. That's it.
yeah, it was so sad to watch, like, it brought
Mhm.
tears to my eyes. I was, like, devastated, even
Yes.
though I knew it was just a movie, but that's how much we innately just connect to these
Mhm.
beasts, I think,
Mhm.
right? I mean, look at your connection to it. Do you think that maybe in a like, carnation of a life that you had one as a pet? Or maybe you
I
bonded
wish.
I know, I mean, think about it, right?
Okay. Yeah. I think I know that, there's a connection to a lineage thing when it
That's what
comes
I'm talking about,
yeah,
yeah.
when it comes to more of a line, not so much I mean, was it a line? Because and even a past life thing, because, we do tend to somehow reincarnate back into our
Absolutely.
lineages, right? So, was it because, dragons were seen and revered, and therefore certain houses or families became of that line? Wayne made a perfect, example earlier, which is Vlad Dracula, and his family came from, like the son of the dragon, but they were also knights, so they protected a line, you see? And this is stuff that people do not always think about. They're just like, "No,
Yeah,
son of the
yeah.
devils." They were still type of knights. They
Yeah,
still
absolutely.
protected a line
Yeah. And
to
I have
this
to go to
day.
Wayne's comments too because I had him on the show, and
Yeah.
I wanna have him back again because his wealth of knowledge is just it's crazy.
Yes.
And for folks out there that are listening, you need to check that out because it was 2 hours of amazingness. He said when the Christian church came into power, They destroyed any other amazing beings. If it couldn't be done away with, they created a slandering program to minimize those same beings. Yeah,
Well, if they
it's
couldn't
exactly.
somehow incorporate them. See, when you're looking at the dragons and the story of St. George, even though that story technically came into play 900 years after he died, apparently, um, it was still brought into the fold. So, and it was the slaying of the dragon. But it's not the slaying so much of evil. Was it the slaying of knowledge?
Exactly. And that was going to be my next question to you. If, if in all human order and civilization, right?
Mhm.
Say
Mhm.
it rests on the murder of the dragon. Does this creature symbolize the necessary yet tragic cost of living in the civilized world? It's like, is the dragon the ultimate victim? Would you say?
A dragon like many others. I I think a lot of things get put to the wayside. I
Yeah.
don't know that if you really started digging, you would find things. And the things that you would find would be Wayne.
He is a wealth of knowledge. He put a comment for folks that are listening. He
Yeah.
said, a snarky comment about himself that he's a wealth of knowledge. And yes, he's even more than that. Like I went back and not to digress, but I went back and listened to that podcast again, and I was just
Mhm.
like,
He's a great guest. He's a great
yeah,
guest, and he's a
yeah.
lot of fun as
He
well.
really, I had a ball. I got to have him back again if he would do the
Yeah.
honor. But
Yes,
anyway,
I'm sure he would.
sorry to digress, but go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think if you really started digging, because as I read through some of these academic papers and such, I realize that there's so much that is far reaching. You know, I mean, we see dragons, we think, yeah, TV, Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, one of my favorite films was Dragonheart with Sean Connery.
Oh, yeah.
It was just so well done, and um, it really made you connect with that dragon because you saw a side of just compassion and love, and it was amazing. As much as you could see, I'm pretty fierce too, right? But when you look through some of these papers and you start realizing how deep into what is part of the religion,
Mm,
those types of ancient stories, you start looking back and going, "Oh, wow, see, now I could see why this was not put out there." And some of that goes back, to the house, literally the house of the dragon, bloodlines of prehistoric giants, and they'll say, "Well, it's Nephilim," but it goes beyond that. You can get into things like the dragon queens of ancient Lemuria. You can
mm,
get into so what if I said that possibly within that connection was Mary Magdalene?
mm.
You'd kinda go, "Wait, what'd you say?"
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is stuff that has been traced back, from Eve, all the way down, all the way down, to different people who would have been revered. And it's not like, no, this is all evil. No,
Yeah.
this is knowledge. This is
Yeah. Yeah.
knowledge. And there were the ancient people who understood the being, right? As maybe, 'cause, I mean, the ethereals, or again, are we just looking at the ley lines, Mother Earth, Gaia, all
Yeah.
of that? Is it an energy thing? Is it a frequency thing? But when you're
Mm,
seeing these things flying around, somewhere throughout history,
yeah.
somewhere, there
Yeah.
was a connection made or several connections made where the people who came across them understood them. But if you're gonna cross something that big, chances are, you might get stepped on, or,
Oh, yeah.
they're gonna fight back. It's a law of survival. But again, you know, there's so much more to it, so
How
much
do you
more to
think
it.
they created some that couldn't fly, didn't have wings though? How did they fly? Did you trip across any of that? Like the Chinese specifically have that squiggly looking one that
Mhm.
looks like a snake kind of vibe. How could it fly?
I don't know, is it energy?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you, there are I started looking into I mean, obviously, I do a lot of research, and I remember, again, Joe and I did this one show, I'd have to go back and look at what it is, and they were called sky serpents, and
Mm,
these things would just show up, and they just look like snakes, not dragons, anything like that, and they would just float around like this, and they people on airplanes were seeing them. They were just like, "What is that?" We're talking modern times, and and it's moving around. There were others there were 2 of them coming up like this, and then they just disappeared. Like, is it just like a moment in time, right? Or
mm,
is it a portal thing? What is it exactly? People are
yeah.
seeing these things, and now, if they, before even like camera phones, there were still cameras. Like there's just people were relaying history. They were relaying what they were seeing. Now you can capture it in an image where the ancients would have to
Absolutely.
draw it
Absolutely.
and talk about it in oral history and
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of like the UFO connection because in
yeah.
my mind, I'm thinking maybe it was ET and maybe they morphed into this dragon persona because it
Mhm,
was something that the people at the time could deal with as opposed to seeing a massive ship. I mean, who
mhm,
knows? Maybe they were capable of morphing and showing us like look at today. Look at Chris Bledsoe and there's so many others. A gentleman I had on my show the other day, they're seeing these orbs and the shape is like pleasant and acceptable
mhm.
to the human spirit. It's not scary. It
Yeah,
reminds them of heavenly beings. So
yeah.
who knows? Maybe these ET are just morphing into things we could accept and deal with. Who knows?
I agree. There's so much that we don't know, and
Exactly.
dimensional, 100%. We don't
Yeah.
know.
Heidi's saying thoughts on dimensional. Yeah.
Yes, I believe there are a lot of things that come into our space, onto our planet,
Yeah, exactly. Out
who,
of the
if they're not
oceans.
already here, yeah, they have the capabilities. There are portals underwater as well. But
Absolutely.
remember, the ancient people, it wasn't uncommon to be able to settle around stargates, vortices,
Mhm.
vortexes, portals. They knew how to create portals. Portals are actually not hard to create. I mean, you could take courses on it. It's just like the people
Yeah.
like Freddie Silva talks about things like that. This is an ancient thing, and when you factor that in, if they were all settling in certain areas, they would have
Yeah.
seen incredible things.
Wayne says the Chinese dragon looks more in keeping with something more adapted to the water, yeah,
Mm.
than the air. But now we hear of UAPs and USOs, which are the submersibles that can go from air to water seamlessly and don't look like they can fly. That's a good point right there.
Yes, and if
Yeah.
something does come through dimensionally, it's literally like a there it is,
Yeah.
and then it
Yeah.
disappears the same way. I mean, there have been videos captured out there, and again, pre-AI days
Mm,
where you would just see like a hole in the sky somewhat open up. You just see it, the dynamics of the sky changing, and something just flies right through it, and it goes
yeah.
gone.
So back
It
to Heidi's dimensional statement,
yeah,
maybe that's exactly where they're coming from, and maybe they're just revisiting us again and making
yeah,
random right,
yes,
Michelle?
yes,
I mean,
yes.
I'd like to think that's true. I
I mean,
mean,
it's let's use again the Loch Ness Monster as an example because it's one that
yeah, that's
people are more
perfect.
familiar with. They have tested the water in the loch. And they have
Yeah.
tested, looking for certain microbes, looking
Oh,
for
yeah.
what resides in the water that could feed something this big. And it's much like other, seed
Yeah.
dwellers that people call, monsters or such in like Ogopogo in Canada and Champ and which shares
Mhm.
between Quebec and the US. But in the lock, there isn't anything there that they believe could sustain an animal that big. And how is it getting in and out? Because apparently there is not easy access to the ocean for something that big. So the only other option, if you think about it, and I've asked cryptozoologists who've come on to talk about it, people who research just the cryptids. And I
Yeah.
say, is it possible that something could just come through a portal underwater, journeys around and goes right back out there? And like, yeah, you just can't. People are seeing them. Multiple people are seeing them. And when Jason Hewitt was on talking about Ogopogo, I mean, there's a photograph taken. And when you listen to the story of how it came to be, you're like, wow, it's amazing. And it has the typical face. Everybody looks like a wolf. This is Photoshop. This is CGI. Then this is right. Yet, when you look at this photo, it looks like, some of the traditional, I'm trying to think, the movie Water Horse that
Mm.
was out, and it looked like it had the head of almost like a giraffe with the antennas. This is what this looked like underwater. And apparently, according to Jason, who wrote a book on it, and Small Town Monsters did a film on it,
Mm.
that it's not been debunked. Again, I don't know, but it is, yeah, it is. It's super trippy for sure. Hey,
Yeah, it
Bubbles.
really is.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
also impressed by like the origins of fire too, because I think originally they were just venomous, right?
yeah.
They went like when did that whole thing become a thing with them too? It's like they're morphing through history through the eyes and tails of men, right?
Mhm. I mean, is there anything alive that can breathe fire? I don't know. Is that something, yeah, that sort of got
No, no, I'm
added
just
on?
saying.
Is it
Wayne.
wait, yeah, wait. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if anything could be fire breathing. But,
Mm,
you come from another dimension. Who the heck knows what kind of attributes you're
exactly.
given? Like, I'm not there. I don't know. I'm not a pro on any of this. I find research, I put it
Yeah.
together, I share it, and I do that because it is, um I love to see what people's responses are.
Yeah, yeah,
I love the
sure.
meeting of the minds sort of thing, where people come
Absolutely.
together with their own thoughts, much like what we're doing right now. We're having a discussion, and we're discussing the things that are out there, and I'm dying to delve further into the academic papers and such, but there are definitely there's definitely more to it. And as much as we can connect things here in the physical the best
Mhm.
we can, and getting into, maybe we're talking ancient bloodlines more than, you know, the attributes of a dragon. Maybe it's a flying
Yeah.
dinosaur, nothing more. People see the thunderbird, which is like a pterodactyl. They are showing up somehow. They are. They're showing up somehow. And they're
Yeah.
incredible, incredible. But their attributes come from the people who experienced them.
Exactly. What about I think you mentioned earlier about the origins of the word, that it was ancient Greek, right? Drakon or something. And you
Draconia.
said yeah, and I think
So
the ancient word came from
oh,
the word drakon or something, but I think you said it means one who sees clearly or has insight, right?
let me go back and look at it.
Yeah,
So
'cause
you
I
you go
that's
ahead
what
and I'll
my
let you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's what my notes said, that in early Greek and Nordic, dragons were wingless, serpentine, and often connected to the sea or the deep earth.
Yes.
And the word was associated from ancient Greek to one who sees clearly. And I had thought about that. And I'm like, why would they give that name to like to the dragon, one who sees
Mm,
clearly? So, like
mhm,
you said before, ancient wisdom,
mhm,
the knowledge of all things encompassing. So maybe, I don't know, like let's play devil's advocate here.
mhm,
Maybe there are no dragons, there never were. They're just purely mythological beings. And this is all just us projecting all of these traits
mm,
onto this beast because we're storytellers by nature.
Mm.
I mean, this is what we did. We sat around campfires and we told stories, right? And that's how knowledge was
Mhm.
passed. I don't know. I'm just trying to flip the script and
I truly am usually all about things like that because people, even with the saga of Bigfoot, so to speak, every culture. Yeah, it was funny. Italians breathe fire.
yeah,
Yes,
that was good,
but
Amelia.
um, but I think again, cultures from all over the world are coming out with the same depiction, and people have had
That's
sightings.
the baffling thing.
Well, they're
That is,
describing things, like now there
yeah.
are, cultures crisscross the globe more than we are made aware of. They did. The Chinese are over, you know, to the New World. You had the Vikings here beforehand. I mean, the Templars were out in South America in the 800, like what was it? Like 1200s
Yeah, yeah,
before
yeah.
Columbus. Well, it can't have that. It's not the narrative. Like there are things and information that's been kept for us because it goes against the conditioned narrative. So, and that's something that happens because the world, it resets. Right?
Yes, it does.
Things change. We're not the first kick at the can here. Could we be looking at leftover, what was left over before our
The reset.
reset that
Yeah.
we are now experiencing?
Yeah, that's a
What came
great
before
point.
that?
Also, we've talked about tulpas before.
Yes.
We had a show in depth about them.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? That maybe we're just creating these things and they're tulpas,
If Santa can be a tulpa, so can a
right?
dragon. I can leave that right there. No, I do. I do believe in mindset, and I believe even more in a collective
Yeah.
mindset, in a collective
Mhm.
consciousness, such as Slender Man. And I say Santa because of the visuals that have happened, by people, eyewitness accounts, even in modern times,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
Santa's there, and then he's just gone and he just shows up in your house. People are like, what? But you start getting into some of that, and you realize, like, even his attire is something that was only invented in the 70s, and the traditional red suit that we see today
Yeah,
was invented by
Coca-Cola thing,
Coca-Cola.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes. So when we start looking at this, for example, then yes, can we create something out of nothing? Absolutely. Again,
Yeah.
it's something that has been going on for thousands of years. But when you're looking at, you know, dragons going back to ancient times, and this is why I always feel it's so important to go back in time as much as you can when you're trying to look at research, because people are like, oh, AI will tell us. AI is still learning from somebody
Oh,
like
I
you and
that.
me. Right?
Yeah, I
So
mean, exactly. I
yeah.
catch that in so many eras. I caught it in an error the other day, and I pointed it out to it, and it apologizes, which is cute. So,
You're
I'm
wrong.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I misunderstood some dumb thing that
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
were saying to say.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's learning, and
Yeah.
that's we're still in the infancy, at least for what the version we're allowed to know or were being familiarized with. But I think when you're getting back into ancient times and the
Yeah.
similarities that um, people were talking about, it's sort of like they're different sides of the world. It's different, culturally speaking, they were very different. And the dragon itself, like many other beings, may have looked slightly different as to descriptions, but I don't know how can you put the word tulpa to something like that?
Yeah, I
I
tend
don't
to
know.
think not because of the what we said out of the gate, that continents away, people were talking about these
Mm,
beasts. And the
yeah.
other interesting thing to me is how I had to stop sharing that. How the word slain is always used when killing a dragon. And then if you look
Mm,
back in history, that word too, like so and so, Adam slain, and it's always that word. And every time I hear that, I just think dragon. Like I don't know. My
Yeah.
brain goes to places sometimes.
Well, but it makes sense. Sorry,
Mm.
I got notes falling. I have to rescue them. Yeah. I think with that being said, like you nailed it right on. I think we have to look at the fact that there are a lot of things out there that we don't understand, and we will probably never understand in
Yeah.
the grand scheme of things. We just won't. So all you can do, the fact that people are actually delving into it to me is completely amazing.
Yeah.
That they're writing papers on it. But the interest now, people have always had this interest. Whether it came from a movie, whether
Yeah.
it came from a game, whether it came from a sighting, a book,
Yeah.
there's something about the allure of the dragon. It gets
Yes.
romanticized. People are just like, like I think to myself, I would love to be out walking around someplace like up, like I have visited mountains in different parts of the world. I'm like, where's my dragon? That was a good time. Like it's just, you know,
It's
you
cute.
romanticize about the
You
Game of
do.
Thrones and being the mother of dragons. I'm going to ride around, and it's like some people do this.
Yeah. I mean,
But
that's why they
yeah,
make movies out of it because they know we feel this way.
yeah.
Another interesting thing is the Aboriginal Australians have what's called a rainbow serpent, right?
Mhm, mhm,
And that this creator god is responsible for shaping the landscape, controlling water, and bringing life. And when a rainbow, and I loved this, when a rainbow appears, it's the serpent moving between water holes. I mean, that's really cute.
yeah. See, that's beautiful. I
Yeah.
love that. Like, there's something to all of that. People are creating their own visions, like their own version of what
Yes.
what that's a I guess what we should ask Carol Ann is, what does the dragon mean to you?
Oh, are you actually asking that?
Yeah. What does it mean? What does it mean to you? Like, like for myself, it's wisdom, it's knowledge,
Yes,
it's a
exactly.
sacredness of sort. That's what it means
Yeah,
to me.
no, it's all that. Absolutely, Michelle. It's all that and more.
Mm,
For me, it brings feelings, and that's all I can go on
mm,
of security, of power,
mm,
of revenge.
mm.
Because if you have any enemies, and I'm thinking historically, just hop on one and burn the town down, like what the hell? No
So
problem there.
it's a fire breather. Yeah,
It's a
okay.
fire breather. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Note to self, Caroline has a fire breather. Okay. So no, I do think that when you start delving into history and you start really looking at the associations, you start to see that this is very much an energetic thing.
Yes.
You're talking bloodlines, you're talking knowledge,
Yes.
you're talking, in some cases, ritualistic stuff, not the bad kind. You're looking at things because these are if these are the stewards of the planet,
Yes.
then a lot of cultures would have worked with that. Like they understood the dynamics behind that wisdom and the knowledge and the strength.
Isn't that amazing when you think about it? Like we
Sure.
think we're the smartest things walking the planet, right?
No.
No, no,
No.
we're not.
No, nothing like that
Yeah.
for that. We have to realize, like I said, it's almost like when things reset somewhere along the lines,
Yeah.
they just took the ones that didn't get it and put them all in the one sandbox and said, "Okay, we're gonna start over." Or it's sad to think that we're the ones that might have made it.
Oh,
The ones who did it. You can look at it both ways, but
that's
yeah,
funny.
you know.
But I have to ask you, I'm sure you have dragons in your house, like ceramic ones or stone ones. Do you name them? And if you do, what are the names?
I don't. I
Oh,
don't.
I'm shocked.
I really don't. Yeah, I mean, I have them in the house. I mean, there some of my furniture have dragons in them.
Yeah. Because the guy
Like
behind you has a name, your friendly skeleton head.
Hey, Jeffy? Yeah. Well, that's because he was on my desk and we talked all the time.
Right, right.
People are like, oh, he's haunted. I'm like, I don't know. He's supposed to be, but he really behaves with me. So I have not seen that. But the
That's
family
good.
just refused to want it back. And I'm like, okay, but no, I think that for me, it's just like when I chose my crystal skull. Because, having someone on the show who talked about that, he goes, they call out to you. And then you and I haven't even named him yet, but yet he was very unusual looking. I saw him online. I knew what part of the world I wanted him to come from, which was South America. Because I have like DNA that comes from Peru. And when I
Yeah.
started seeing where it came from, because I did all that for myself long before it became this fad on all of these websites. I dealt with the lab, and it went, and the places it came from and where it went was just mind blowing. So I decided I want to resonate. I want to connect with this part of the world because I never had before, and this thing kept coming back and coming back and coming back, and it was unusual. And I'm like, this is the one. Like, out of everything I looked at, I kept
You
coming
just
back to it.
know, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did. And I ordered him, and he was,
Mm.
I mean, exceptional. Amazing energy, very easy to connect with. And I haven't named him either. If I was
I
going
don't
to
know.
name a dragon, he would have to be
Yeah.
he would have to be as big as my house. And just,
Yeah, of
male.
course. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think when you name something because I think a lot of these dragons in movies and mythology, a lot of them have names.
Yes.
They're given names. And I just think like it humanizes them almost when they do that, right?
It
Like,
does. And are they supposed to be?
right.
Are they supposed
That's
to be
that's
humanized? Is that where
exactly
you're
my
going with it? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I
I
don't
don't know.
know. I mean, I don't know. How do you name something so majestic?
Exactly.
You probably, if they gave you a name, you may not even be able to pronounce it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, in like Mesoamerica, they would call like the feathered serpent, but they still
Mhm.
had names. Like they still named them something.
Mhm.
'Cause we have to do that as human
Mhm.
beings. We need to name things, but
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you read anything more about that, about the naming of them, or probably
I
not.
know. I've never. It wasn't anything. There wasn't a connection to me that really meant very much. But because I go back and I look at, I'm more interested in getting back into, like for me right now, it's the dragon line, the dragon lineage,
Mhm.
and the sacred bloodline. That's what I'm actually researching, the whole DNA of all of it,
Bloodline.
because the ancients looked at dragons being an awakened power, which could transcend dimensions. So there's something for people within those lines. It's like there's an ancient code in there that is intertwined in there.
Mm,
And that's what awakens.
yeah.
So is it, if we go with that theory, do we wait for that code to activate? Is this what certain people in the world are waiting for with certain lines? That activation,
So
right?
you think that's like a spiritual activation?
Yeah,
They're gonna activate spiritually?
spiritually, I mean, within the physical, within the DNA of it, I think there are certain lines that will do this. And in that awakening, I think if you're a good person, then you're going to be able to experience that in a
Mm,
different way than if you were somebody with an agenda, let's say,
yeah.
who may not use that for positive
Mhm.
purposes. If you know where I'm
Right.
going with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
you talked earlier about the rebirth and, like, the dragon being, like, almost immortal, right? I mean, we know they can be killed, but
Mhm.
immortal through history, say, right?
Mhm.
So, do you think they also are very connected to us because of the symbology of the cycles of renewal, rebirth, the eternal life. And how
Mhm.
about the shedding of skin, like reptiles shed their skin and
Mhm.
then they have a rebirth? I don't know, it just seems so connected
Mm.
to the human spirit and to humans in their physicality.
Sure, if people can recognize that.
I mean, we
There are
shed.
some. Yes, we do. I don't feel that people recognize. They look at a dragon and it's a mythical being. They don't look at it anything beyond that, maybe a cryptid. And there's a lot with that.
Oh,
There
no,
are
like you
people.
said, it could be a whole show, like you said.
It could.
Yeah.
It could, really. I mean, if you're looking at the fact, that these things, or these beings,
Mm,
you know, look just look at, again, sacred knowledge, certain bloodlines, okay? Those who can remember without actually knowing. Because, and I'm not gonna get into to all the people who they know were part of the
mhm.
line, that, 'cause that's just a whole other show, and I have to just let that be for now. But it comes down to the fact that, one of these people was considered to be a portal herself. If she
Mm.
comes from that sacred line, dragons also were said to be portals themselves. So would they need a portal, or could they just be?
I don't know, I kinda like the feeling of the portal jumping thing,
Yeah.
because that would account for a lot of the sightings
Mhm.
that folks are. I mean, this video's all over too of you don't know if nowadays if they're fake or not, like the one I
Mhm.
showed
Yeah.
earlier, but,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like I feel comfortable with the portal theory too.
Yeah. Well, some portals, especially if they're within, because there's a belief that we're all portals, because we can reach within, we can travel while we sleep, we can do things from within.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
kingdom of God is within you, right?
Yeah,
There's that.
because don't they also, that's exactly correct, and don't
Yeah.
they also symbolize knowledge and energy as we talked about?
Mm.
And almost the, well, they're kinda red, but I also see them as like a gold almost on fire, like the phoenix symbol, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And that kinda leads to perfection and sun worship, and
Mhm.
that the dragon guards all of our spiritual treasures as
Mhm.
well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is what I think we need to look at, things such as frequency,
Yes.
right? Maybe it's
Spot
passed
on.
through. How about this? What if, because if we look at frequency, what if it's passed through soul recognition and not blood at all?
Oh, that's a
Ah,
good one.
right,
Yeah,
right? What
that's a
what if
good
it is
one.
that, right? I mean, there's
So let me ask you this. Those that are connecting to the dragon spirit are connecting through not only bloodline, but something spiritual, right?
yeah, essence,
Yeah.
energy. We're all energy.
Mm.
I think there are certain beings out there who, and because a lot of times, like this video, these pictures that I showed, this is a physical thing. Somebody captured this moving around,
Yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah.
and it was an older video because the show I watched was older, right? So I thought, oh, that's interesting, right?
Mhm.
Um, but there are many people who, spiritual people, through meditation or remote viewing, things like that, people with certain energetic abilities who can connect with ethereal beings on a different level than somebody who may not be using their gifts, right? So
Absolutely.
when you start getting into things like the historic side of things, there are certain lines, and a lot of times it falls into royal bloodlines, but there are certain lines in general, because not all of these bloodlines ended up moving and progressing forward into the royal lines that we
Mhm,
see today.
mhm.
because some of those get crisscrossed, right? And they change due to bringing, there was a reason they married into their own lines, but that started changing, over time. And so that's a little bit different. But I think we need to start asking ourselves, which of these lines, were touched by something otherworldly, and
Yeah.
are they protecting? Is it a vibration that's being protected? Right?
Ah,
Some
good
of
point.
these people, like the Templars, like the Cathars, for example,
Yes,
the
that's what I was
Gnostics,
just
they
thinking.
were bridges between the seen and the unseen, between
Right.
heaven, between earth. There are lines that do this between the divine feminine and the conscious masculine. The
Mm.
lineage of the dragon, it's not a myth, it's real. It's a matter of
Speaking of, can I share this? I want to get your opinion
yes.
on this one reel that I found.
Okay.
Let me add it to the stage. Make sure the sound's on because it's always muted.
The
Oh,
dragons were real. And so around the same time period, so to speak, and I'm not one of these people, so I'm probably going to get the details
It's
wrong
like
a
a
little
Matthew
bit.
McConaughey movie right
Yeah,
now.
seriously. But so around the same time period in China, South America, Africa, all these different Rome, all these places, images depicted people fighting dragons, right? And every dragon was slightly different, but it was all a giant scaly animal that could fly. So when you break that down, you think about the fact that large birds had a hard time being fossilized because their bones are so porous, right? So because bones, they have like hollowish bones, they break down very easily and they don't fossilize. So the group that says this, basically they're saying the evidence is the reason there's no fossils of dragons is because they had bird bones and they were actually very delicate animals. But a handful of these small population of these giant flying lizards existed and basically encompassed all these different countries where they all depicted that dragons were real.
well, what's your take on that? Because scientists, as you alluded to earlier, who are writing papers on this, are saying that they did exist and they have proof. And you heard some of the theory of that.
Well, scientists, there's academics of sort
Right.
for sure who are delving into it. I look at that Komodo dragon, for example, and that's nowhere near the size of the dragons that
Yeah.
like the photos I showed earlier or what people are depicting.
Yeah.
And it would take a heck of a fairly big and strong like wings and wingspan to be able to lift that up off the ground. So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. Could they be if they're part of the bird family or hybrid bird reptile? There are
Mhm.
some dragons that look feathered. They're
Yeah.
not just scales. They'll have some
That's a good
feathers.
point.
So it's
Yeah.
possible. Snakes, that type, for example, a little
Yeah.
bit more lightweight, might be able to,
Yeah.
to achieve flight a little easier. I think right now, even when you look at the pterodactyl and the wingspan on that thing that it had, this is like the Thunderbird that some people are still witnessing today. Big wingspan. And that's just a lanky thing. That thing's not like, I mean, if we stood next to one, it'd be fairly heavy. But on the scale of what we're talking about, with dragons in comparison to that, it gets itself moving around. No problem, the pterodactyl. But if it had the girth of a dragon,
Oh,
you
yeah.
look at how big that wingspan is, that dragon would have to have one heck of a much bigger
Oh,
wingspan.
yeah, absolutely. What
Yeah.
about the dragon in the use of like astrology? Wasn't there was a culture, I forget offhand who they were, but they used the dragon's body as like to depict the cosmos being created, that kind of thing.
I've never delved into that, but
Yeah.
there are, I mean, people who get into astrology,
Yeah.
hands down. I mean, it's not uncommon to like dragons tend to be, again, it's that allure, but it's also because of the wisdom and everything that it represents, a keeper of secrets and
Mm,
wisdom and protectors of the
mm.
planet and the stars and I mean, you're going to find them surfacing literally everywhere, without a doubt. So
Yeah.
I'm sure it's out there.
And in some movies too, like when the hero is battling this big bad dragon,
Mhm.
he's like the victim of the dragon, and it always seems that's part of the plot. Like here's this big bad evil dragon, and
Yeah.
the slayer has to come, and it's kind of biblical too in a way, right? There's a lot of biblical
Mhm.
stories that depict that too.
Mhm.
There's always like David and Goliath and
Mhm.
David and those types of things.
Well, the
So
underdog is supposed to win. So,
underdog,
so when it
exactly,
doesn't, you know, if you're
exactly,
trying to, I mean, let's hypothetically say there's a dragon in the town. Dragon's
Mhm,
got to eat. It's a big being. It's going to
right,
eat. You've got livestock. That's fair game. It's going for it as much as it would going after a deer, for example. It would go
oh,
after a cow.
oh,
It would go after sheep. And so that's the thing. The whole tale of the dragon and the maidens is sort of, is that a tale? It's just a tale
yeah,
because it's a reason to, I mean, there was the sacrifice back then too. You know, that's what you're going to sacrifice the
yeah,
maiden. Niagara Falls had a story of a water dragon of sorts, and the
oh, no kidding,
indigenous would apparently sacrifice the maiden, and there's a whole thing on the maiden, and a lot of local historians who get into that side. I mean, I think my friend Dave Benison had been on one of my shows and talked about the different paranormal and superstitions and things, all these old stories that have been on. And I know Utu Witch Doctor, another friend who'd been on talking about the same idea. So
yeah, yeah,
Niagara Falls has a story. So it's not, again, uncommon that they would sacrifice a maiden to the volcano gods. What came out of the volcano? Sometimes a dragon, right? Same idea, water dragon. So the whole maid being sacrificed, and they don't do a sacrifice at one point. So take the maiden because I didn't get my
yeah,
sacrifice this year. There's stories that go on and on and on. So the night comes out, either you're just killing off villages and burning us to cinders or taking our livelihood and our flocks, or you have the neighborhood maiden.
yeah.
I come on my noble steed to slay you. And it doesn't usually end up well. you know,
No, it doesn't,
and the
unfortunately.
dragon usually fancies the maiden and becomes a protector. And in some cases, in some tales, lets her go. And sometimes the maiden has such a connection she chooses to remain behind. Like there's all kinds of incredible tales. Where do they come from, and why are they there? Logic would tell you have a predator in the town. You want to take out the predator because it's literally annihilating everything, killing
Right.
people, killing your food. You know, but the whole spiritual, you have to look now at like what I was talking about earlier, the
Mhm.
spiritual side of things. Why would such tales want to be weaved?
Exactly. That's
Are they trying to discredit a line, or are they trying to discredit an animal? Like, what is it exactly?
Was the Kraken from ancient lore, that wasn't a dragon. Was it the one that came out of the ocean?
The
The
kraken, and
Kraken?
that's like a big crazy
What did that
octopus looking
look like?
thing. Yeah.
What that was like a cryptid kinda what did that look like?
The
I can't
the kraken just looks like it was like a big octopus of sorts, just big giant thing with a heart.
Yeah, yeah,
Some
yeah.
people said it was like a big turtle cross, like multiple limbs.
Yeah.
I think it's had different looks and things that
Yeah, I
I've
can't
seen it
quite
have,
put
but
a finger on what it looked like. I know it came out of the
mm,
ocean, but I wasn't sure
yeah,
if it was an octopus type of thing or a dragon type of thing. I don't know.
yeah, no,
I think that dragons have been depicted as mostly males. I don't know. Like when I watch movies
mhm,
until the Game of Thrones, who changed that because she had female dragons laying eggs and stuff.
mhm,
But the dragon, and I just found that interesting, was always a male. It was
mhm.
always he, it was the pronoun was always he.
Well, I mean, are they not the ones maybe that going out to find food for the female lays the egg?
Yeah,
So,
that's a
I
good
mean, she's
point.
very well protected too. There's some shows that would depict the two of them, but I don't know. It's just, yeah, it usually seems to be the male
Yeah.
counterpart, but there have been some, where the female is protecting her youngster and people were, knights were trying to kill the baby, like, oh, this isn't so bad. It's not
Yeah,
that
I've
big.
seen a few
And
of
they
that.
she had two, I think, and they killed one and
Yeah,
she
right.
was defending the other. And then, mama comes out and they realized, Joe boy,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this one
Yeah.
big dragon, and she just does them in. Right. So I don't know. I think there's a healthy balance, but I think when it comes down to it's kind of like the vampire, having the
Yes.
allure of the maiden with
Yes.
this knightly
Absolutely.
creature sort of thing, this being, maybe because again, it sort of gets romanticized,
Yes, it
the
does.
dragon and the maiden, and they have a connection. And it's just a connection, a bond. It's nothing more, obviously, but
Right.
there's that
Yeah.
that connection. I'm gonna give you a
How
ride to
much
the
of
valley.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. How much of like the Western dragon's malicious identity has been a cultural fabrication, like, or a deliberate shift, say, from the Christian ideology in order to like demonize, which the Catholic Church was great at doing and still is, to demonize pagans and demonize any earth deities. Do you think that the dragon who was initially benevolent, right, is just like the victim of a bad
a bad
PR
rap.
campaign,
Yeah.
like a bad PR campaign? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if they couldn't incorporate it, 'cause the church would come into an area, take it over, and would often incorporate, certain holidays and how they did things and say, well, we can incorporate it by bringing this in. We just change this as the blending of the masses to try to make it as easy as possible. When you're coming into, again, I think when it looks at the dragon, yes, it's a reptile. Therefore, it's
Yes.
got to be bad, even though the church has more information than anybody else within those archives of what these beings really are,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So again, when you start digging a little
Yeah.
bit, were they trying to bastardize a bloodline or a way of life, an energy thing,
Mhm.
a group of individuals, or or was it even something trying to pull us away from that
Yeah.
by creating the dragon as a symbol of something that we would just shun?
Yeah, I mean, didn't the Catholic Church create the Knights Templar and then destroy them?
Well, there were many
Yeah,
facets of
right.
different Templars. There were many organizations. We're just used to seeing one.
Yeah, Wayne's point. What they couldn't incorporate, they would remove or diminish. It's important to such a point they great beings are reduced to fair. Yes,
Fairy tales.
that's
Mhm.
exactly to fairy tales. Correct.
Yes. Yes.
That's such a
But
great point.
thankfully, this wondrous world of the World Wide Web, which is now, being bastardized in itself,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
has
Yeah,
been a wealth of information, for research, but there's still nothing like a good old book.
absolutely. And Hillbilly Herb, that name's hysterical. He said, sure seems like medieval folk coexisted with dragons, or else they were being highly fed. I don't know. It sounds like maybe at some point humanity did coexist with these beings, right, Michelle? I mean, it's a plausible possibility.
They are revered in some countries.
Yeah.
China, for example, very sacred. They're very sacred. Some countries or some cultures just look at something for what it is. I think with all of the conditioning that we live in modern times, the technology, which kind of, there's so many
Yeah.
abnormal synthetic frequencies being created for technology, right? Microwaves, Wi-Fi. There's all kinds of stuff out there. So it when you go back in time, there wasn't any of that interference jamming your own antenna,
Right.
your own frequency, your own abilities. People could see into the ether. People could see. People draw electricity from the ether, but people could see into the other side. Some people could see dimensionally. So these things could come out. They would see them. They had an idea of how these stargates and portals work. That's why most settled around these places.
Exactly.
It wasn't just the waterways. They would settle in. The indigenous settled in around what they called sacred places, because some of these sacred places included gateways, stargates, portals,
Mhm.
vortexes. I mean, they understood. They had an
Yeah.
understanding of what it was all about.
Do you think Skinwalker Ranch is one of those sacred I mean, there's so much that goes on there. It's crazy. There's everything from cryptids to UFOs to ghosts to spirits to, I mean, it's nuts what goes on there.
If a portal was opened
Mm,
by something, or if they discovered a gateway there, um, military has this way of
yeah,
researching things and poking the bear. What can we get it to
yeah.
do? Should we be worried? Should we let's mess around with this
Right.
thing? All of a sudden,
Yeah.
this thing gets bigger and things are coming out of it. I think you and I talked about that with CERN,
Yeah.
even,
Yep.
scientists saying, oh, okay, things are coming out of there. Yes, because there's some kind of rift that is now here. I can tell you there are places such as, again, places in the world, Navajo Nation,
Yes.
down by land between the lakes. Military has a way of, shall we say, taking up space in interesting areas that it wants to research or protect
Yeah.
or
That is
keep to
so
itself,
true.
or, the various reasons, right? But I would look more closely because on one side, you've got Navajo Nation, all kinds of things that go on there. You have Skinwalker. That I mean, it
Yeah.
was a place that has been researched and manipulated. I mean, Bigelow was there for 20 years at,
Yeah. Yeah.
by contract, things like that. And you go on over to Blind Frog Ranch.
Yeah.
Which
Which is
is along,
another.
that's the Aztecs, right? They're looking for Aztec gold. They're looking for Aztec that lost history. And the indigenous people of that area will tell you, no, the Aztecs didn't flee here. They were returning home here.
Oh, wow.
You see?
I'm just
There's
wondering if these sacred places, like where these ley lines are that you talked about, the 13, if this is where maybe these beings come through. Maybe this is the portal that they can access to I
they
mean, who
they
knows? It could
they
be.
settled around the area for a
Right.
reason. And they would have known how to create portals. Portals aren't hard.
Exactly.
We know how to create portals. I mean, it happens all the time. Technology can create a portal. Spiritual people can create a portal. You have slips in time that happen, and they're
Yeah, yeah.
happening all over the place. Shifts are happening. Oh my gosh! I mean, we live in a
You know,
wondrous place. We do.
that's such a great point, and I would love you to come back and we could do a show just on CERN and portals. Like, we could get 2 3
Sure.
hours out of that. I mean, I would love
E-
it. I would love
Easily, because you could talk about the vortexes. You can
that.
include the triangles. You can include things in the mountains. You can include things. There's so
Oh my
much.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
Can I
lot.
can I hold you to that? I'd love to have you
Yeah, of
back to do
course.
that one. And then Wayne says, such a great another point. Let's face it, if your whole line is being persecuted and you end up fleeing the area, is it really a wonder that we haven't seen dragons for centuries? I mean,
Well, somebody's seeing them, but yeah, for
yeah,
sure,
I mean,
for
yeah,
sure.
that's
Yeah,
true too.
it's
That's true
true.
too.
Yes, yes, yes. And I like Misha's comment. 153 AC was when the last dragon died. Well, according to Google, but
Oh, here.
here maybe clutching 5 eggs.
Oh,
Where
wow.
did the eggs go? Would be my question.
Clutching
How
5 eggs.
how did
That's
she die? And where did the eggs go?
yeah. Oh, they're in
Where?
the Smithsonian Underground. That's
Uh, the ocean, you mean? No. No.
right.
Um, I think some of the things that we see, there's a lot of people who've got um the CTV cameras, security cameras, and they're catching these little dinosaurs and little raptor looking
Mm.
things, and people are seeing things. And like I said, I've had a guest on the show who's talked about different areas that still have dinosaurs. You go down to the Congo, there are eyewitness
Wow.
accounts,
Yeah.
many of dinosaurs. Real dinosaurs are still happening.
Yeah.
Are we spicing
Yeah.
and dicing, there's certain places through certain organizations that are recreating these things and they're being let out or they're escaping, or I don't know, is
Yeah.
a dragon one of those? I don't know.
Yeah. And then to come back to, present time, I love the work of Carl Jung. He viewed the dragon as a symbol of the individual shadow, the unintegrated, darker aspects of the self.
Yeah.
Does the enduring lore of the dragon lie in the ability to force us to confront what we fear and reject within ourselves?
It's beautiful. But see, he's whimsical.
Yes, he
The
is.
spiritual, whimsical people have all the great answers.
That's so good. That's
You
so
know,
good.
for sure.
I love that. That's so good.
They come up with all the good stuff.
It's
It's just
whimsical.
whimsical.
That's such a good word to describe that type of language, right?
Yeah,
It is.
it is. It is. That's why
But-
people look at it and they go, God, I
That's
completely
right.
understand
It
it.
resonates. It resonates.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
I know. I read that and I'm like, oh, Jesus. So humans are so mortally wounded as poor creatures.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
Such an effing train wreck.
Why we are a train wreck. Why is it so hard
Yeah.
for us to look at something? If I saw a dragon up there, it'd be freaking hell. That's amazing.
Right.
You know?
Wayne, you know what she wants for Christmas, Wayne? Get it. Get it.
but it's like, why is it so hard for people? I mean, we've lived in this day and age, and I completely am on board with the question everything, do your research, don't take things at face value. But it's almost like many of us have that magic inside where you see something and you're just like, oh my God, you have an instant connection to it and you're just like, it's there. This is this incredible magical thing. And
Yeah,
you can't,
what is that? What is
it's
that?
childlike and it disappears.
Do you think that's, I mean, people describe that as like the Holy Ghost. Whenever you get these like ethereal feelings and you get chills and tinglies and stuff, that's like the Holy Ghost. I mean, that's, no, but you're so spot on. We see something like that. You can call it dragons. And then there's just this instant connection that, in the deepest places of your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you were talking about so clearly in your connection to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've had that my entire life. And only one of my children felt that same sort of connection also. And there is no real way to describe it. You just feel a pull towards that energy somehow. You just feel this pull, and you seem to have an understanding, like it's the knowing without knowing.
Yes, exactly. And my closing question to you will be, what are your dragon dreams like? I know you have them.
Yeah, not many of them that I can remember. I can tell you that. I'm too bogged down with what am I going to do the next day. I vividly had a dream, like probably going back years ago, where I just had an encounter, and again, it was on a mountain. Like I love mountains, but I had an encounter, and was I traveling? Was it a traveling dream or was it just a dream? But at that time, I had it's just a beautiful dialogue, and oddly enough, it was a black dragon.
Oh wow!
Which everyone was just all evil. It wasn't anything like that. It didn't even feel predatorial. It just sat there and it just hunkered down and it just we looked at each other. Yeah, we weren't flying around anything like that. It's almost like we're just observing one another, and comfort within one another's space. And then it
Mm.
was just gone. It was nothing elaborate and exciting, like we flew around the mountain ranges or anything like that.
Yeah, no,
Just
that's pretty deep though, because you connected with it, obviously.
yeah.
Like there was an absolute connection between you and that in your dream. And
Yeah, the only one I
fact,
could ever really remember in that kind of a detail, and
yeah,
it wasn't like it was anything. I mean, that in itself to me was pretty magnificent, but it's not like what most people would think that you're just flying around the valley and just this is my dragon, and it was
right.
just like it was just there seemed to be some kind of there just seemed to be some kind of a curiosity yet connection.
It
Oh,
did. That
geez.
it recognized its queen. That's
Yeah.
great.
Thanks, I'll take it. But whatever the case may be, it was very comforting to me.
Yeah.
I did not feel out of place. I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel unnerved. I didn't feel like we shouldn't be in one another's spaces.
Right.
It was just a thing.
So that's much like of what you feel in the real world about them. I mean, it was kind of a reflection of that, I would
Mhm.
think. It
I think
sounds,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
This has been an amazing and fascinating conversation. I loved every minute of it. And
Thank you.
again, I can't believe 2 hours went by and we talked about dragons the whole freaking time.
Who
It's
knew you
great.
could talk about dragons for 2 hours?
I didn't know.
I know, it's great.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Michelle, thank you so much. I love you dearly. You know that.
Oh, I love you too. Thank you for having me. Thanks everybody in the chat room.
Yes.
Love
Thanks,
you guys.
everyone. Thank you, Wayne, for your wisdom and knowledge.
Yes, and
I'm
don't
gonna get
forget,
all embarrassed.
don't forget on Monday night, two real cryptid legends. Speaking of, it's going to be one heck of a show because I know the guests that are coming on. So watch for the promo soon. It's going to
Ooh.
be on Sasquatch, and your mind's going to go like that.
When is it?
So
Monday?
Monday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, True Real Cryptid Legends with myself, the moderator host, and Ron Moorhead
Oh, you did
and
mention that. Oh,
Daryl
I'm gonna
Denton. Oh boy,
stay up.
they're going to
Yeah.
have two amazing guests on who are very credible in the field, and it's going to be it's
think
it's
so.
going to be wild. That's all I'm going to say. So anyway,
Oh, I can't
thank you
wait.
all. All
You're
right.
gonna blast it. You're gonna blast it all over social media. Of course, I'll share it. And I
Thank
will
you, thank
be
you.
there or be square, as they say, right?
You're not going to want to miss this one, believe me.
Good, good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Bye,
I will talk
everyone.
to you soon. Bye-bye, dear.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Oh, what happened? Thank you, everyone in the chat. Oliver, of course, came up to me because he instantly knows when I'm signing off and saying goodbye. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, everyone. Hillbilly Herb, your name is hysterical, but I want to thank Patsy, everybody in the chat. I loved your questions and comments, as I always do. I want everyone to have a blessed and wonderful upcoming weekend. Take care. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.